welcome. We're happy to have you with us. We've got some amazing content for you today with two good friends of mine. And we've also got some great content coming up for you. So we'll be talking about all of that. I'm going to go ahead and let you know that this is being recorded. We do have a YouTube channel that all of our recordings are on, and Colorado Career Connectors does have about 24 events per year. I'm going to talk with you a little bit about our mission, our values, and what we do. And let's go ahead and get started. Yvette, as you see other people entering, go ahead and let them in. So if I have not met you, it's so nice to have you here. I'm Chelle Johnson, and I am the CEO of Best You Career Advantage, and also the founder of the meetup group that you are connected to now, which is Colorado Career Connectors. Our vision is really about connection, collaboration, and community, which is why we bring amazing speakers to the table like we have today. And it's really about that connection for Colorado's workforce. And this morning I read the Workforce Development Talent Report for 2021, and I'll be giving you some insights of how Colorado's workforce is going to be leaning in for 2022 and where the funds and the grants for our workforce development teams are going to be cascading down to all of us in Colorado. We hope to continue to grow, and we have over 900 people in our community, which has grown over the past year. So we're pretty excited about that. Whoop, whoop. And we hope to bring together all Coloradans for outreach programs, career connections, hiring companies, education, and networking. And so that's what we hope you will get today. If you haven't been out to my personal website, I invite you to go out to bestyoucareerconnectors.com. Best You Career Connectors. It shows it's a Monday, right? It's bestyoucareeradvantage.com. And personally, I help women over 40 and diversity allies, specifically LGBTQIA and in the Hispanic market, to unleash their professional edge. And what that means is that my clients fast track their job search. They get higher salaries. In fact, last year, my clients earned $1.4 million more because they worked with me and really leveraged the community. They also have more harmony and more holistic happiness in their life. I do a program called Career Connectors. Okay, I'm really off today. I'm sorry. I do a program called Mental Fitness and Positive Intelligence. And that framework has helped several people on this call, but others that are calling in. And it helps decrease, which maybe I need to do a positive intelligence rep today, to decrease my nervousness a little bit and increase my, that wise sage part of myself. So please go out. I'd be happy to talk with any of you. And thanks for understanding my blip on a Monday morning. I think that's all part of post-COVID, right? So welcome, Lisa. Welcome, Anne. Welcome, Lisa. It's awesome to have all of you here. My right hand is Yvette Bell. She is the Director of Operations. She's the one who does all my presentations, my website, and helps me with everything. So if you are looking for a graphic designer for your logo, for a website, for pamphlets, anything like that, I highly encourage you to reach out to Yvette because she is amazing at that. Like I mentioned before, Colorado Career Connectors has grown to over 900 people since March of 2021. And we've only done that through organic reach out, networking, community outreach. And so we thank you for helping us to grow. Our website is cocareerconnectors.com. I got that right. So we have two businesses. Best You Career Advantage is my personalized coaching. Colorado Career Connectors is the group that you are in now that we bring you high-level content. Please go out on our site and subscribe if you have not already. Since January of 2021, we have been lucky enough to grow Colorado Career Connectors through sponsorships. And two of our premier sponsors are Anna Brambilla. She is at the Entrepreneur's Source. She helps connect people to franchises that you might love. And that is not just the top 5 in fast food. Those are everything from healthcare to daycare to cleaning operations. So please reach out to Anna if that might interest you. Chelle is also one of our sponsors. She is a financial strategist and partner with Prism Financial. She is actually the financial planner for one of us on the call. And she is amazing working with women. She has seasonal finance, and I'm very happy to have both of them as sponsors and in my network. So you will see them come on different events that we have, but we definitely want to get the word out on that. Yvette, do we have Janet on the phone? Or Janet here? No, okay. Every other week from noon to 1 or noon to 1:30, we host these events, and they are for all of you that are either seeking a job, looking for professional promotion, career advancement, or just really want to hear what's going on behind the recruitment or talent acquisition or HR curtain. So we'll come back to Janet if she's able to join. I'm really excited to have a very good friend of mine, Brian Curr, who is a senior HR business partner at Sovrn, and he's going to help talk with us today. He is really well known in the startup, the small to medium-sized business arena, and I can't wait for all of you to get to know Brian. And we also have a very good friend of mine, Shawnna Earnest, who started her own business in 2019, and she now helps small to medium-sized companies throughout Colorado. She is killing it with clients, and I'm super excited to have her expertise as well. So welcome, Brian, and welcome, Shawnna. We are going to go ahead and get started. And our first topic, and so Brian, if you can take yourself off of mute, is why is the market so flippin' and damn crazy? Okay, so when we had our pre-meeting to this, we talked a lot about what's going on in the market. And we've got the war in Ukraine. We've got supply chain issues. We've got a post-pandemic job market that's gone insane with higher level salaries, supply chain issues. We've got social injustices. We've got inflation coming. So Brian, I'm going to start with you about, from the HR business partner's perspective, how are all of these crazy things affecting Sovrn, and what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, so I want to just kind of like take a step back a year ago. So about a year and 2 months ago is when America started to trot out the first phase of the vaccine program, right? And if you remember, it might feel like 3 years ago, but just a year and 2 months ago, a lot of companies were really anxious in that, the middle part of Q1 of 2021. What's going to happen? How does this affect our bottom line? What does that look like? And while, I'm speaking for myself, I will say that there were many companies that were looking at RIF reduction practices. So a RIF is a reduction in force, and a prevention practice is what things can be true to prevent having to reduce your force, right? Like pausing a 401k match is an example. Having your executives take a temporary 20% salary reduction, things of that nature. And that was pretty prominent when I was on different panels and talking to different HR leaders. There was a lot of chatter about, what are we going to do here? Are we going to have a recession? Everyone was talking about a recession. I remember that was a thing about a year and 2 months ago. And then all of a sudden the vaccines came out and things started getting better, and the CDC. I mean, really, COVID is still a big part of this, as far as I'm concerned. And then we kind of went through the summer and the world started to open up. And here in America, we have such a short attention span and such a short memory. And then all of a sudden, if you're an HR business partner like me to do an annual compensation review, what was true back in the Q1 of 2021 was, oh my gosh, I don't think we're going to do promotions. I think we need to pause. And then it was, oh my gosh, the market's opened up and everyone wants a 30% salary increase. And I am not an economist, so I don't understand all of those complicated nuances on how we went from, Q1 of 2021 of the sky is falling to this is a blackout drunk job market and a blackout drunk housing market. So what comes up must come down. Now we are in Q2 of 2022. And I'm starting to slowly see some corrections in salaries. 90 days ago, we did an ACR and we leveled everyone. We did the 7% inflation, all those different things. Now it's starting to slow down. I'm looking at the job market. It's not as hot as it was about 7 months ago. It's still a great job market, but I don't think that employers have the same appetite to do the 25% on this, 30% over on this. Kind of like you're gonna go buy a house, it has to be all cash with $100,000 over. That's starting to slow down too. We know that the US job market and the US housing market are intimately intertwined. So I don't have a crystal ball, and I'm hoping Shawnna will be able to answer this with more nuance and more expertise. But I have a feeling there is going to be a minor correction in Q3 when it comes to what salaries are in the salary market, what type of surveying we're going to get with our compensation platform and tools. I know for 2 organizations that I work for currently that they have a Russian and Ukraine software engineering organization, both companies, and that is really affecting us right now with our ability to meet customer commits and things of that nature when it comes to software engineering. So as a software engineering HR biz partner working for a software company, the war in Ukraine is intimately affecting our ability for customer commits. So while it may be true that there'll be a correction in the market for a lot of different sectors and a lot of different areas, I do think software engineering will continue to grow because of the war in Ukraine and because of those things. So I could talk about this forever, so I'll step away. Any questions or any comments? Anyone want to poke holes in that?
Brian, I thought that was amazing and such insight. And you say you're not an economist, but you brought so much together. And I can say from my clients, and my clients are mostly smaller companies, they are just like at their wits' end. So I think about these companies are small and they can compete at different levels of being more flexible and adaptable and less HR paperwork policy, but they're also reaching a breaking point. And this breaking point is, when is this going to stop? Because they've got this turnover and turnover and turnover, because all these employees, and some rightly so, are seeing the grass is greener on the other side. I don't know if it is or not. I did hear a report that the great resignation is often becoming the great regret. There's probably some very good valid reasons why people are leaving their employment and finding new places for a variety of reasons, but sometimes the grass isn't always greener. And I think that we're going to hit a point where companies and owners are going to be like, enough is enough. We can't keep paying new hires 30% more than our current staff. We've got all this internal equity, and we still have to hit our revenue targets to pay all of this. So everyone is just stressed beyond belief. And I wish I had a magic answer and an 8-ball, and I do not.
I think that this is going to affect a whole generation too.
Mm-hmm.
Just like back at the Great Recession of 2000, it started in 2006, but it didn't really affect people till 2008, 9, and 10. I remember that. I remember all my friends losing their jobs. I remember people taking pay cuts, and they said, okay, mid-millennials and older baby boom or older Gen Xers are never going to make up their salary again. that was the sky is falling. And then, you know, the Obama years, not to get political, but the Obama years came for 8 years, and that was really helpful. A lot of economic policies came in, quantitative easing and all those things. And a lot of us were able to recoup our salaries on a career trajectory. But what I mean by this is I do think that all of our Gen Z new to career employees that have graduated college within the last 3 years or are now graduating might have the wrong expectation of salary and expectation of worth with regard to compensation. And it'll be very interesting to see how they navigate the correction in the next year. And I think for those on this call, that would be where you might be able to sneak in the interview process as maybe being a mid to senior worker that has different expectations of salary. Maybe, you know, you've weathered the Great Recession, you understand how the world works, you understand what working is, right? A lot of these younger new to career, they're still learning what work is and how that comes to be. So I think there could be a way to position yourself in an interview of away from the salary expectations being super high and more about the compelling work and maybe changing that narrative. There could be a way to do that for career seekers that are, you know, mid to senior at this point in this market, especially in July when things really correct up.
Yeah, we are seeing that drunken market like you were talking about. And we had such a fun conversation in the pre-meeting that there will be a correction. And yes, the question that you want to ask is, what is your budget for the role? A friend of mine's client literally got $75,000 higher because she did not state her range. So there's lots of conversations we can go into that, but we would love to hear from you about your questions. I am happy to send out, along with this recording, a summary of the Colorado Workforce Development Report that is stating that women and BIPOC women specifically have been hit the hardest. And I also wanted to mention that Colorado Career Connectors was just in the Denver Post with an article along with Tara and the Colorado Women's Chamber of Commerce, talking about around 90 things for women to do to get back in the workforce, to talk about those subjects. And certainly on May 9th, when I bring Simone Ross, who is the CEO of the Women's Chamber, and Lupe Hurt, who is the co-founder of Second Act Women, we're going to be talking about the power of women in the workplace and the myths that we have to overcome. So I invite you to that conversation, but get involved and know what's going on in the community, what's going on in all of these economic indicators directly affect your job search or directly affect you applying to those roles. Like Shawnna is saying, from the small to medium-sized businesses, I'm actually a recruiter as well. So I know that they still have to make revenue. They still want to be very comparable and competitive in their current employees, but they have a compression issue now with bringing in people for more amounts than what their employees can engage. Shawnna, have you seen that in your clients? And
oh my God, every day, left and right of this market, they're trying so hard to bring people in, but the market is demanding. They're coming out and saying, no, I want, 20 grand more than you've got budgeted. It's like, well, listen, I mean, the market is so tight. A lot of these hiring managers and employers just feels like their hands are tied. And I think it's going to break. They're just going to be enough is enough. And then you've got this is why the turnover is happening. Their employees are seeing like, wait, you just hired somebody. And I'm hearing through the grapevine that they're making much more than me. I want to make more too. And a lot of my clients are getting really creative with other perks and benefits besides base salary.
Can you tell us more about that? We actually have a topic about that. So I want to make sure, and because this is just a conversation, we do have a question about diversity. Lisa, we will get to that as well. But Shawnna, to your point, what are some of the creative ways that businesses are coming up? And so let's talk about that. And Brian, I'd love to hear your thoughts on that as well.
So it's ranging from up to, call it $300 to set up your home office. So now, this big push, the work from home and hybrid, that's a whole nother topic, right? Of employees pushing back and don't want to spend the money on commute. So they're compensating them to set up their office. There's $300 to upgrade your laptops, or I'm sorry, your monitors or keyboards or your desk or whatever it may be, to a full-blown monthly wellness benefit of a couple $100 to use on whatever makes you a better you. And there's no restrictions on that. Is it dinner out? Is it an Airbnb? Is it a house cleaner? Is it an acupuncture and a massage? To unlimited PTO, which is really popular, but it's coming back. It's stronger with small businesses now. To what else are they doing? Just revamping their benefits, their health insurance, and getting more creative with that. A lot of employees, small companies have a challenge when you're under 50 to get competitive group rates for medical insurance. So some of them are saying, okay, fine, we'll just pay you to go find your own if you don't like what we offer. So they're in the past, it's always been like, listen, this is our benefits, this is our package, this is what we offer everybody. It's your choice to take it or leave it. Now we've got to be more customized and more specific, more wiggle room to negotiate sign-on bonuses. So the door is wide open with ideas and options besides base salary.
Awesome. Brian, what are your thoughts on this and what are you seeing?
I would say hat tip, Shawnna, for you and your people. That's great. I'm going to scale up at a software company. It's about the money. I've got 200 software engineers and they're just, hungry. I think we've tried really hard to have a work-life balance. We need to improve our parental leave. It's expensive. We need to do that. We need to improve our 401k matching. We are looking for pre-IPO readiness so we can offer more RSUs or equity or vesting or whatever that is for directors and above. But I'm trying to push it as culture. So I tell my talent team, if you're really, struggling to get someone to close, ask them what is really important to you, what needs to be true. You can go work at Sales Loft and make $200,000 at 29 years old as a software engineer. You can do that, but you can't be innovative, right? You can't be innovative. Okay. So what is right for you? Do you want to have compelling, innovative work where you make a little bit less money, have a good work-life balance, you're part of something, maybe the company goes public, or do you want to work for a big machine where you make a lot of money and you, instead of going wide and innovative, you go deep and tactical, right? So I try to look at it more as a career development conversation, because we can't compete with the Sales Lofts, right? That's not a thing. I don't have that kind of money. But I can compete with what's important to people, right? And for some people, it's just the money. And I'm finding it looks like for my software engineers, and I'm trying not to paint too broad of a stroke here, it's about the money for many of them. But for my marketing folks and for my go-to-market and my product and my sales organization or my HR teammates, it's not about the money as much as it's about the work-life balance, the culture. Is it a toxic work environment? Is it a collaborative work environment? And then also I like to, really be clear with them and say, maybe you should give them 3 names of people at different levels at different parts of the organization that they can actually talk to if they're not ready to close on a deal, and be like, what do you love about working here? What don't you love working here? And, we've really been looking at our exit interview data, and I've been crunching the numbers, and no one leaves my company because it's not a good place to work. They're leaving for money. And I just hate that that's the thing right now.
Hey,
so
Brian,
that's where I live right now.
So I have a question.
Yeah.
So, because I've gotten a little bit of feedback, and this is my thought and my hypothesis, but I have a feeling that some people are like, listen, fine, you know what? I can make $200,000 as opposed to 150, call it. So I'm getting an extra 50 grand a year. I'm just going to suck it up, work for 2 years, bank that money, and then leave. Like, it's like the money is just overriding what I would call common sense.
Right.
That's what I'm saying. I don't know if that's what you're seeing too. And to each their own. I shouldn't say common sense, to each their own, but.
I think it just depends. We all bring our work experiences with us, right? As like hangovers. And I do think that the new to career, Gen Zs, the 28 and below crowd, it's about the money because that's all they see, right?
Yeah.
And I think for us that are in our 40s and 50s, there's the money, we make the money, we have our savings, we do the things, but man, I worked for some real assholes and I've worked with some real assholes. And I'm not going to do that again. I'd rather take a pay cut to work at a less toxic place where I have a manager who lifts me up instead of tearing me down than take that money. Because I have friends that make that money, but all they do is bitch and moan about how toxic their workplace is, but they've got the handcuffs and they don't want to leave.
Mm-hmm.
So
that's the thing is
why.
So once you start making now you're 2 years at this $200,000 threshold, you can't go back.
No, you can't. And don't overtitle yourself. These young people love to overtitle themselves.
So there's no going back. Like, it's like, you got to stop. I have my recommendation, like, stop and really think about this. What are your goals and how does this align with where you want to go with your future? But I do think there's a lot of millennials, what's driving this, the hybrid and some other perks that they want is there are a handful, and there's a group that want that work-life balance and want to be happy and be aligned with the values of the organization.
Mm-hmm.
Somewhere.
I think that no one can pinpoint the exact workforce. Some people want to go back to the office. I know Dina on our call, for example, wants to be in the office. There's burnout, which is a whole nother topic that we talked about. There's burnout from staying at home. There's burnout from being understaffed. I'm a consultant in the construction company, and I can absolutely tell you the burnout is real. Part of what I do is I help people through toxic corporate syndrome or toxic boss syndrome. And Brian, going back to what you said, I mean, the iGen or 28 and below, they've got bills to pay. They want to bank that money. But the women that I work with, a lot of my clientele, they want that flexibility and adaptability and leaning into where their values are. And so you have to really think about, if you are going after a young and pre-IPO company where 40 might be the oldest person there, you're working as a whole different community than in government or in larger organizations. And so I just wanted to bring up this topic that aligns well with what Shawnna was talking about as well, with benefits of unlimited PTO, of a wellness allowance. In my own consulting, I'm helping a business build a wellness program right now. And I mentioned that I had just read the Colorado Workforce Talent Report, and there is a huge influx of need for behavioral health assistants, peer advisors, people who know how to work with people in addiction or counterproductive behaviors, because that has absolutely gotten so much stronger. So for our audience out there, what has gotten you burnt out? And do you have any questions that you would like to talk with Brian, Shawnna, or I about burnout? Or Shawnna or Brian, any thoughts on this topic while we're on it?
One quick thought on burnout that I've been thinking about prior to today in aligning with, all the job seekers out there and negotiating for a new job. One thing to remember is those hiring managers and mid-managers, they're burned out too. They are incredibly stressed because they're getting pressure from the leadership and C-suite to meet revenue, meet production, meet their goals, hire staff. They're getting pushback from HR because they can't meet, they got salary compression issues. So they've got an awesome candidate who wants, X amount, but they've got internal issues. So HR is pushing back, trying to keep some level within the organization. And then they've got their employees that they're worried about with turnover and leaving and their issues. And I think there's a lot of mid-managers going like, I'm done. I'm pulling my hair out. I don't know what to do anymore. Not to mention they're probably, got their home life, trying to figure out how to work from home, go back to the office, demands from both sides. So I think it's just such an crazy time. And so I think about that in the messaging of, as you negotiate and look for your next role, keeping in mind these stressors of the hiring managers and what makes you appealing and what makes, that flexibility and adaptability and requesting for higher salary or other perks, being logical and compassionate about that in that thought process.
I love that. Thank you, Shawnna. Yeah. I want to get to a question that Christine is asking. It says, it looks like HR has moved from employee advocacy, like picnics, benefits, to bean counting. That doesn't seem comfortable for HR. What's our take on that?
Well, so that's a really good point. I mean, HR is caught in the middle of everything. We do want to get back to, events and bringing collaboration and connectivity to the workforce. And it's difficult because you've got some people who still don't want to come back to the office at all. Would rather do a hybrid, event or remote event. And then they're trying to figure out salary and counting the beans for benefits and salary and the budget. And I think over the last 2 years, going back to what Brian's original comment with the economy, which I think you are an economist, actually, Brian, going back to Q1 of 2020 and how things have changed so much, the budgets are blown out of the water. So I don't know, no one knows what's going to happen to health insurance premiums, depending on the size of the organization with COVID. Someone's got to pay for all those vaccinations and COVID stays, right? It's going to be passed somewhere. Salaries are crazy. So I think HR is like, they're about to throw their hands going, I don't know what to do anymore. How do we keep our employees happy? And how do I still help meet the budget I've been set, which is wrong after one quarter, with the salary increases? Brian, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I would say plus 100 to all of that. And then, Christine, just to I see your message in there. I 100% agree with you. And I don't find that comment to be insulting at all. Actually,
no, I don't either.
I find it to be quite astute and I appreciate it. Like Shawnna said, all those things are true. And then, so for example, at my team, so I'll just do it quick. I'm 300 employees dispersed in Western Europe, Canada, and America, every time zone you can imagine. 300, about 200 are software engineers or in product, give or take, and then 100 for the rest of us. And my people team is quite small, but we do have an employee engagement lead. And her job is to do like all of our engagement programming, DE&I initiatives, partnering with our DE&I council and things of that nature. And then we have a total rewards person doing all the comp, and that person's counting the beans, not me. I'm a senior HR biz partner. So I'm actually lucky because I'm so far ahead in my career now that I'm working more with executives, VPs and managers and interacting with them to align with business goals and business needs and bubbling up issues and doing employee relations. So I still feel like I'm the employee advocate. I think my total rewards manager might actually be sitting there going, gosh, I feel like I'm counting beans instead of figuring out how to do good paternity leave, right? And then my employee engagement lead, I think, is doing a really great job. Like we just created this really great perks program using a software called Bonusly, right? And so people can recognize in the public square on a monetary level, and we have a budget for that every year. We're looking at doing a couple different conferences where we can fly people in who want to come in, who are vaccinated and follow our COVID policy. Mm-hmm. And so I think our employee engagement lead and I get to be the advocate, hopefully to the executives, and bubble things up and try to reinforce and align. But I do think that if you're in a small organization or you're a consultant and you're an HR person of one or an HR person of two, you're counting the beans. You're talking to your FP&A director or your CFO every day, and you are running workbooks and SQLs and all the things, which I am not doing right now. So I'm a very privileged person. So I'll just make a note of that.
Right. Yeah. It's just the craziest time in HR in all of this world. It's insane. it's fun and insane.
So a topic on that, I'm part of a group and an association from Hirewell, and they were saying that that there are more recruiter and HR positions out there than they can find candidates for, because HR folks are very burnt out right now. And I could have added a bullet point that said HR is in high demand, and so is recruiter. But think about, I mean, the economy has been messy. People are messy. The vaccine stipulations are messy. It's just been a messy time. Question from Lisa is there a trend about jobs sharing, and can we talk more about that? Shawnna, since you have 8 or 9 clients, what are you seeing for job sharing?
You know, that's a really good topic. I actually am not seeing much in job sharing, but I love that idea of going down that path. I am seeing more push towards part-time work and more flexible hours of, you know, let me just get somebody in and you know, whether it's somebody who is a caregiver or in school or something like that, to have more flexibility to work less hours and not this rigid, 40 hours a week is what I'm seeing more of a push towards.
Thank you. I'm also seeing big companies going to 4-day work weeks and doing a lot of piloting on 4-day, even like PwC or a big accounting firms. Europe is pushing this idea as well. And does a 4-day work week mean that you get 32 hours of work, or that you work 4 10s?
4 10s.
I think it's 4 10s. I think you're still doing the same amount of work compressed. And I'd be curious what everybody's opinion is on that, because on one hand, everyone loves a 3-day weekend. Well, I shouldn't say everyone, I love a 3-day weekend. However, on those 3-day weekends, when I'm back to work on Tuesday through Friday, I feel like I'm just cramming in everything into those 4 days instead of spreading it out over 5. However, I could just be me and not knowing how to best manage my, workload to 4 days, but I'd be really curious of those who are in it, living it, is it working?
So at my last company, we tried to institute Flex Fridays every other Friday and no meeting Wednesdays, and it lasted 2 weeks. Because you can imagine, because when you're in a high scale software company, you're just running at 110 all the time. You don't really get to take time off, right? That's why unlimited PTO is such a silly thing. It's not true. Right. That's why I believe in defined PTO policies and making people take their time and paying them out when they leave, rather than, hey, take as much time as you want off. Can you really? So kind of looking at that a little bit. So we're having this conversation in my current company, and I think what would make the most sense is to try to do no meeting Friday afternoons, and really making that a hard, fast rule that you do not get to schedule a meeting after 12 p.m. Mountain Time on a Friday, and that we have guidance that we want managers to let people phase into their Fridays. Doctor's appointments, leave for the mountains, whatever you want, and like kind of create this Friday afternoon. So then you still have your Monday, Tuesday, Wednesdays, and Thursdays, but then we give the discretion to the manager. Because if you're a strong employee and you're not on a PIP and you're an adult, I don't need to clock your time. I don't need to know when you're on Slack at Monday morning, or what time did you send that email on Thursday night, and are you a hero because you sent a PowerPoint at 10 p.m. to the whole group on a Wednesday because you're working? Or can I just trust that as long as you meet deadlines and that you're an adult, that you can, manage your time? Now, for new to career or for the low performers, they need the guidance from the HR team and the coaching from the employee and from their managers. But I think Friday afternoons are good. I also think shut down the all hands on Monday mornings. Why do companies do this? All hands and stand-ups should be Tuesdays at 10 a.m. And the reason why is it gives executive assistants and HR people and your data owners Monday to do those final slide decks. So it's kind of like, instead of giving people a 3-day weekend, give them a nice re-entry on a Monday and a nice departure on a Friday.
I love that, Brian. I love it. I love that.
Yeah, I do too. I know when I worked at Lockheed Martin, we had every other Friday off, and we did do like 9 days, and Lisa piped in and said that she likes her 4x10. So I think it's really interesting that companies are piloting that, and it depends on the individual and what you know, time management. If you're an HR department of 1 or 2, you're going to be working on that day anyway.
Yeah.
For sure. Okay. Mari is saying that she feels overwhelmed by the job description, so many tasks, responsibility versus the pay you've encountered with that. And do you address these issues with the employer? So the job description says all these things, and versus the pay you have encountered. Should she address that with the employer?
I say have a conversation about the job description and ask, what are the primary duties? Like, so probably what they're doing is they're throwing the whole job description out there on the job posting, right? Like everything under the sun. So really talk through what are the top priorities? What are you going to be spending 75% of your time on? And what are ad hoc things that are just done once a month, once a quarter, once a year that they've threw in there, or just as needed if you're covering somebody who's out? And I think asking the question to define, you know, what actually is going on with that job description would be helpful and maybe eliminate some of that overwhelm.
And I would frame it, that's wonderful, Shawnna, absolutely. And I would also frame it as, what part of this job description is a wish list, which is, you know, if we could have everything we wanted in the purple unicorn, what would it be? And what part of it is a recipe, right? If I'm going to make a souffle, and it's going to be a successful souffle, there are going to be non-negotiable things that have to be true for that candidate to step in that role. And then if I want that souffle to be, you know, vanilla or chocolate or have some burnt caramel on it, what are those pieces that are more of the growth opportunities for career growth than the day-to-day is getting in there? So look at the recipe versus the wish list. And then also just on salaries real quick, so everyone knows, with the Colorado Equal Pay for Equal Work Act, most companies right now that are based in Colorado all over the country get to decide which salary ranges they want to post externally versus internally. What I'm finding to be true is most companies are posting the 25th percentile to the 65th percentile. So they have that 65th to 100th percentile budgeted in their headcount that they can play with for either promotional pathways down the road or for that Goldilocks candidate, right? You know, we all strive to be the Goldilocks candidate, the right fit for the company, the right alignment. And so when you look at a salary online and you're like, oh my gosh, it's only, you know, 65,000 to 100,000. That 65,000 is the basement, that's the bottom, but that 100,000 is only the 65th percentile. So how you do in your interviews, how you do in your follow-ups with your thank you emails, how you're referred, how you show up, how you present, will all give you that little bit of wiggle room to get to the top of it. Because they're going to come back at you and say, well, we're going to give you the top of the posted salary, and they're going to give it to you at like 90. And they're going to be like, look at me giving you 90,000. I'm so great. And you're going to say, well, it's my understanding that that's probably the 65th percentile, or that would actually be the 55th percentile. So with my experience, knowing that I can start on day one, I do not need training wheels. I know how to show up. I'm an adult. I can produce. I need to be at the higher end of the 75th to 80th percentile. How do we get there? And then work your way back that way. If you want salary advice. Okay.
Well, actually, that was one of our bullet points for today, is the Equal Pay Act. A lot of recruiters hate it. Because,
of course they do. And so do a lot of chief financial officers.
Yes. The CFOs are the challenge. I will tell you.
They hate it, but
they hate it because the CFO's goal is to spend least amount of money as possible.
Totally.
HR normally reports to a CFO, not so much. Starting to switch that. So they've got their boss saying, pay less, pay less, pay less. Here's your budget. Here's your budget. HR's got the hiring manager going, but I've got this great candidate. So HR is trying to be this magic in between, go between to like make everyone happy, which never works, right? I can never make everyone happy. So then you go, okay, let's talk about this. And so the job posting ranges, I have seen probably the bottom of the barrel low, and some companies saying just pushing that minimum on there, minimum of $40,000, which is not even in the original range that they have internally. And then they leave it open because they're so scared they're going to top out. Like, what if they're willing to pay 120, but they don't want the internal candidates to see the max is 100? It's craziness. So yes, Brian's advice is amazing and perfect to have that very respectful and valid conversation and highlight what you're bringing to the table. So there's less arguments. Facts are friendly. All facts are friendly, and really being, I think, respectfully negotiating to that hiring manager is the excellent advice from Brian.
And so of course I don't speak for every HR person, but I am seeing a trend in HR where when we talk to our talent acquisition folks, our recruiters, our gatekeepers, all of that, you get what you pay for a little bit, but you also need to think about, what do you want? So you have a role. Do you want someone who's more junior, who's cheaper, and can build their career, and you can partner with them on their career and be that good manager and invest 15 hours a week on top of your job to nurture and train and develop and build? You can do that. Or are you underwater and you needed all this done yesterday and you have no time to commit? You need an independent thinker who can just figure it out, and you don't have time for training wheels because that's more expensive. So I always say in a kickoff meeting, when we do a backfill on headcount or a new role, I always say to the hiring manager, before you even interview anyone that comes through on the recruiting side, what do you want? And be really thoughtful, because what I don't want is you going for that cheaper, younger person, and then you want to fire them in a PIP 90 days later because they aren't what you wanted, okay? Because you have to make those decisions as the hiring manager. I'm very hard on my managers. They have to make the right decisions about what they want, and they have to commit to it, okay? Because if I have an employee, they want to put on a PIP within the first 90 days, that's not about that person that was hired. That's about the person who hired them, right? What did you do in that process? So the way I would look at it is, when I talk to my managers, and not all of them do this, but hopefully more HR people will, what do you really want? Do you want to be a mentor? If you have 8 direct reports, do you have time for this 9th one who's coming in, who's going to be thirsty and young and wonderful in many ways? But can they produce, and what does your 30, 60, 90 day look like on that? Or do you need someone who's senior or mid-level who can hit the ground running with a 30, 60, 90 day plan they bring to the interview? Because that's going to cost more money. So you get what you pay for. What do you want? And it's okay. There's no right or wrong. Some people have the bandwidth to be that good manager for that young person and can do that as a player coach, and some cannot. So figure out, what are your needs as part of the business? How are you aligned? Does your manager support having someone that you can nurture and grow? Like, that's what I love about interns, right? Everyone's like, oh, interns. Interns are not employees. They are young people who are learning, and that takes a lot of time. Interns are a lot of work. And I shut down. I mean, I shouldn't probably be telling all my secrets here, but I'm not a big internship program person, because I know that the managers 6 weeks in are like, I don't want to do this anymore. It's too much. It's too much. Yeah, I know, but you wanted an intern. Maybe you should have brought in an entry-level person instead. And then the intern to FTE conversions is very complex and complicated. So if you are a small company and you don't have the bandwidth to have an internship program with a dedicated HR resource, don't do it. So I use the intern as an example of, you get what you pay for. Well, this intern, they were an hour late to a meeting. Yeah, because they're an intern, you have to teach them that. Oh, well, they don't know how to do, they don't know how to filter things in Excel. Yeah, because you have to teach them that, right? So that's what, I'll get off my soapbox, but I think you are starting to see where my biases lay, right?
The reason I invited you here, Brian, is because you have the knowledge and you do talk about your soapbox. That's why we're here. And we talked a lot about the pain points of equal pay, So we have about 10 minutes. I want to hear from the participants. What are your pain points in the job search? Or what do you need our advice on right now? Because you're not going to get behind the scenes better than Shawnna, Brian, and I. So I can see you thinking, Christine. I see that. Mari, I hope your cat is out there thinking, and Lisa and Anna, as well as Miss Davidson. What questions do you have for us? And you can just open your mic if you'd like to ask. I see something in the... Yeah. Okay, while you're thinking about that, I'm going to go back to something Shawnna said earlier. Facts, be a fact finder. If you're a job seeker, figure out what their pain points are. Figure out how you can be the solution to the company's pain. And one of the pain points for hiring managers is they might not have the budget to go because the market's telling you that you deserve $40,000 higher. What's your bottom line for compensation? And now is a great time to get a new job. But I've heard a lot of people talk about be realistic with what you're looking for in that new job so that you are not priced out if you get riffed in 2 months from now.
Right.
Because the market is going to react. Right now it's drunk and going to blackout mode, as Brian talked about last week. So you have to bring realism into that. Okay.
Yeah. And I always say, as an HR person, I have no problems with negotiating salary with candidates. I love it. I like it when they come to the table with a negotiation because it tells me they're going to speak up for what they're worth. They're going to speak up at work. They may be a little more assertive and it engages a conversation and it's an opportunity to develop that relationship. So, however, negotiations need to be logical and they need to be respectful. You know, and it needs, so for example, I had a candidate many years ago. We knew he was this was before the Equal Pay Act. We knew he was at the top of our range. We had open conversations with him of, you want $80,000? Listen, you know, we can budget 70. We landed, okay, listen, if we move forward, we can probably do 75, but that's it. So, I mean, I'm making up these numbers because it was several years ago and I've slept since then, but it was very targeted. And so he came back and we offered him 75 and he said, no, I need 90. And we went, done, pulled the offer.
And what a waste of our time. I will blackball someone on LinkedIn quick when they do that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So be respectful. And I had a colleague who was so great. She were like, would you consider this? This is where I need to be with my career. If you have salary, compression issues, would you consider A, B, or C? And she presented some other options, which I thought I love the would you consider because it's respectful and she had other options and ideas to get her worth and her value besides just a base salary. I think it was a signing bonus and some additional vacations, by the way, is the easiest thing to negotiate.
Agree.
Oh, absolutely.
I totally agree with you.
I wanted 2 months between jobs and my current company said, we need you yesterday. And I said, I cannot take this job and start next week. Not doing it. It's not good for me. It's not good for you. You want me to produce work? But I need to step away so I can come back. And they said, well, what about a month? I said, sounds great. And so that was in lieu of a $10,000 bonus. I said, I would rather take a month off between Uplight and Sovrn than a $10,000 bonus. So that's worth a lot of money to me, having 30 days off. And it was. So always, time off. It costs nothing.
Yeah.
Push your start date back or lie and say that you have a big vacation to like Jamaica or something in 2 months and you have something to look forward to.
Right. But be logical, be respectful, and it just has to make sense for you. And it's going to be different for everybody. But I love negotiating. I don't mind it.
Yeah, I think all HR and talent acquisition people expect that you're going to negotiate. And with my clients, if you're not negotiating, it means that you don't have the confidence to speak your truth. but in a logical, practical, respectful manner. And so that's part of that development of knowing your worth, knowing your truth, and being able to come at it in a respectful and diplomatic way. Christine, you have your hand up.
I do, but I'm more than happy to let it go over to Lisa's question, because that sounds like it may be more pertinent to what we're talking about. And if we get to what I'm talking about,
Awesome.
the DEI, that's great.
Okay. If you have two competing offers in the same company, two different managers, how do you handle that?
Easy. I go all in. I show the offer letters to the companies. Here it is. And I tell that to my current employees who are like, oh, well, I just got an offer from SalesLoft. Okay, can I see it? What? Let me see it. Let me see it. And I'll call and confirm that it's true. And then I'll match you. But you know, if I match you, you shouldn't take the job because counter offers don't work. By the time you've already come, I've already lost you. You're already on your way out. You're on your exit ramp.
Agreed.
So if you are in the interview process and you're unemployed right now or whatever it might be, or you're taking time off, you're in your refresh mode, you have two competing offers in writing, get them in email writing or make them PDFs and show them to the others and then see what you can get.
Right.
But be really thoughtful. If you're talking about like $3,000 here or $4,000 there, go with who you're going to work with. I'd ask for follow-ups. I'd say, I'd like to meet with every single person I'm going to interact with before making this decision.
Do references. Reference check your new employer. Reference check your new employer.
Absolutely.
Double check and go back to that list of why you're looking to leave your current employer and why are you looking to accept a new job? What are the pros? What are the cons? And weight them and follow your gut of what really sits well with you. I'm telling you, at the end of the day, for some people, money is everything. If it's, they're really low and it's a base salary, but if you're unhappy at work, you've got a jackass of a boss.
Yeah.
All the money in the world isn't going to make that better.
It never does. Throwing money at a bad situation doesn't work.
And going back to Brian's comment, counter offers, I hate counter offers. I get so angry when an employee gets a counter offer and they stay at their current employer. They're looking to leave for a reason. Yeah. It drives me insane on these. I
find it fascinating when managers try to save people. No. The first thing I'll do, I'm not very popular. So a lot of managers don't care for me. But what I'll say is, are you trying to save this person because you don't have a succession plan? You haven't done a knowledge transfer? Huh. I thought that was part of the way. Yeah. So because you didn't do your job, we now have to throw money at someone who's going to be the rotten apple in the bushel? I don't think so.
Yeah.
No one is that important.
Yep.
So you heard it here. If you want Brian to be your HR person, you need to apply for jobs at Sovrn.
Yes, we have a good culture, I promise.
And he is not counting beans, and neither are the companies that Shawnna works with. What we hope that you heard from us are nuggets of truly, we understand burnout. We're burnt out too. But
oh God, yes.
We are here. That's why we called this Taboo. And how lucky are you guys, even though it was a more intimate group today, that you actually got audience with two amazing HR folks. So we are going to be sending the recording out. Christine, you had a question, and that'll be our last question.
It could take a long time to answer, and it's from someone else who may have left. And it was, how do you ensure DEI when you on a hiring panel?
So I'll take that. I'm happy to answer. Shawnna, I know you and Brian have very tight schedules. There is a job site at Sovrn, yes, and we will have those in our recording. We'll have it in our email to you. So if you would like to stay, I'm going to answer the DEI question. Shawnna and Brian, thank you from the bottom of my heart.
Thank you. I'm going to connect with both of you. Thanks so much.
Please do.
I'm going to listen. I got about 5 minutes. I'm going to listen to your DEI answer, Shelley.
I wish I could stay, Shelley, but I am a minute late to a comp call, so I have to jump. Thank you.
All right. All right. Bye-bye. Okay. A lot of companies are moving away from just the program of diversity, equity, and inclusion. So if you're out there wondering what DEI means, diversity, equity, and inclusion. And since George Floyd and so much social injustice, they are really many companies are looking at systemic changes within belonging or inclusion or equity or whatever your company might call it. So the question is, how do you ensure the DEI on your selection panel? In software, where Brian comes from, it's a lot of white younger men because that's the community they have to choose from. And a lot of the consulting that I do in talent, we talk about the absolute need for there to be a woman or a BIPOC or person of color, because if there isn't, that is, for example, last week I went to a luncheon and I was one of 10 women. I walked in and I was like, I felt so uncomfortable. And they're like, what feedback do you have? I'm like, maybe invite more diversity in women and people of color to this. So in many companies, they are making as part of their interview process that members of affinity groups or employee resource groups are now involved in the interview process or are becoming like a buddy or a person that you can talk to before you actually start your position. I have seen a big pivot toward that. Smaller companies, it might be harder, especially in Colorado, because I just looked at diversity numbers. We were at 4% African American, we're now at 7%. The Hispanic market makes 23.1% of our Colorado community.
Right.
So I'm happy, this is a longer answer, happy to take this offline, but you want to look at the company's diversity policy, their platform. There's a company called Samsara out there that
Megan Jo Specht is over there.
exactly. So MJ,
Yeah.
they have a whole diversity policy, procedure, etc. And you're going to start seeing that more where companies are. It's not just a lip service piece anymore. It's becoming a systemic change with promotional opportunities. You can also go out there on the Women's Leadership Foundation. They have community board bound. They have corporate board bound where they're trying to get more women and women of diversity on stages and on boards. And in 2 weeks, May 9th, noon, I have the CEO, Simone Ross of Colorado Women's Chamber.
Mhm.
If you read the article in the Denver Post where I'm quoted and Simone is quoted, it talks all about getting women in the workplace. It's called the She Session. I think that Yvette put the link in there. And so I hope that answers questions for all of you. It's my pleasure to bring this community to you. Let's get the word out for May 9th and May 23rd. And we have interviewing coming up for you. We also have Pride Month coming up in June. So we will be joined by more recruiters and more HR folks. Thank you so much. And we will chat with you later. We will be sending this recording out along with an email. Thank you. Take care.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.